as part of today's video podcast, I'm going to take you through how we use cash flow planning and cash flow forecasting as part of the retirement process to enable people to see what their life in retirement looks like. So whenever we look at future planning for clients, we always incorporate what we term as cash flow modelling or financial forecasting into the advice process. To me, it's a vital part of the initial and ongoing advice process. Of course, the output is only as good as the input, much like decorating. The input itself will have a number of assumptions keyed in, like inflation, investment growth rates, assumptions that will be different year on year. Because of these differences, it's therefore important as part of our ongoing advice process is to review cash flow forecasts, in my view, at least annually, to make sure our clients' plans remain on track, and if not, what changes need to be made. Now, for most, cash flow forecasting allows us to work out when a person can afford to retire, provide an outline as to what their retirement or life will look like, and allow them to plan, safe in the knowledge that they can afford to retire without the fear of ever running out of money. So if a client cannot afford to retire at their chosen retirement date, through cash flow forecasting we can identify what action needs to be taken to make their retirement goal a reality, and I will take you through a current client scenario to highlight how we use this. However, before I do go into the client scenario, we don't just use cash flow forecasting for retirement planning. We use it for things like inheritance tax planning, and by doing so we can identify assets clients will not need in their lifetime, and therefore can plan to give those assets away, knowing that they will never need them in their lifetime. Because that tends to be the biggest hurdle when we look at retirement planning, is people worried about giving assets away, not knowing if they'll need them later on in life. However, what I will state is this episode doesn't go into the specific details about how we can use assets for retirement planning. That will be covered in later episodes. As stated, I'll take you through a current client example that I'm going through at the moment. I'll just give you the basic facts of the case. My client's age 63. He's employed, earning £60,000 per year. He has a pension value of £450,000 and other assets, be that cash, of £50,000. His house, no mortgage, is worth £850,000. He has a full state pension, his wife does not. So the target retirement monthly income they have is £3,500 net per month. I've set inflation within the scenarios at 2.5%, so everything in terms of expenses rises by 2.5% per year. I've used his pension growth rate of 3.5% net per annum, and I've also set interest rates at 0%. Now, the key to looking at two scenarios, because the case is trying to identify when my client can afford to retire. So I'll take you through the two scenarios. So what you'll see on the screen right now is a cash flow details bar chart. Now what you'll see, the top black line is the annual expenditure need. So in year one, you'll see it's just over £40,000 a year. And the way they meet that in this example is they'll just use those £50,000 of cash savings that they have just to cover their expenditure needs for a year and a bit. Thereafter, what you'll see, which is the pink lines, which is the client's drawing down on his pension plan. And because he's drawing down on taxable income, that's why the bar chart expenditure need goes up, because he then has tax to pay on that income. You'll then see the stages when the two-state pensions start to become payable. But the long and short of this scenario is that they cannot afford to retire and meet their retirement income needs from investments, pensions and state pensions alone. You'll see the red bar starts to show at age 77. So that really opens up the conversation piece as to, you know, what do we need to do to ensure that you never run out of money in retirement. So in the second scenario, what we're now looking at is one whereby my client continues to work until state pension age. It's his desire to work no later than state pension age, but again, we're looking at affordability and the ability to retire at 66 and live off £3,500 net per month. So what you'll see from the bar chart, there are three further years of employment, and that employment just about covers their everyday expenditure needs. Expenditure needs are more than £40,000 a year now because he has tax and national insurance to pay on the income. So you'll see age 66, employment income ceases, and as with scenario 1, they live off of capital for the first year and a half, and then thereafter start to draw down on retirement income, be that his pension plan. Now again, what you can see is even working 3 years, from a long-term income perspective, it still is not long enough because they run out of money at age 82. Now, I won't go into too much detail, but what we're able to analyse via the Cashflow Forecasting software is a net rate of return that will be required by my client's pension to ensure they never run out of money. And that net rate of return has been calculated at 6.18% per year, which is quite a high rate of return for someone who has an attitude to risk at their level. Lastly, I can also identify through Cashflow Forecasting what lump sum they would need to have right now to enable them to live the life they want to lead in retirement. And that lump sum is calculated at £216,016. Now, they can't afford just to magic that sum of money initially, but what they do have is their house, and they can use such things as equity release later in life or sell and downsize. But hopefully what you'll be able to ascertain from the bar charts and the Cashflow Forecasting system that we use, we can start to have conversations with clients to enable them to plan with a bit more certainty in terms of how early or how late they need to retire. So I hope you found that episode useful. I would ask you join us next week when we will dive deeper into the complex world of inheritance tax planning. As always, you can watch all episodes on demand over the Raffingers website, which is www.raffingers.co.uk, and I look forward to speaking and seeing you again soon. Take care.